Hello. In this clip from our Justia webinar, Elevating as a Leader, Making a Triumphant Transition at Your Law Firm, Scott Mason discusses some of the ethical considerations in leadership while sharing his final takeaways on career transitions. If you'd like to see more Justia videos on law practice and legal marketing, be sure to subscribe to our channel.
Ethical considerations. You always want to make sure that any and all ethical obligations related to your jurisdiction have been put into place as you transition into leadership. I've listed a few here from the model rules, but obviously there are local variations, jurisdictional variations on all of these things. Rules of confidentiality regarding those that you represent or have represented as you move away from day-to-day practice into legal leadership. It's huge. Make sure you're familiar with those. Maintaining representation duties both to former clients and current clients as and then after you transition. Again, all of the rules related to those, including those related to conflicts of interest. And then make sure that if you are moving from, let's say, being an associate corporation counsel for the government or an assistant corporation counsel into a leadership role, whether it's in an outside organization within government, that you are always following the ethical conflicts rules with regards to government employees, because those are sometimes more strict and they're not exactly the same. If you're no longer licensed as you move into leadership roles, for heaven's sake, make sure that you are following those rules around holding yourself out as a practitioner, and then always pay attention to the rules regarding supervision of attorneys or those that are supporting legal tasks. And I've identified those here in the model rules. Suffice it to say, just because you're not practicing law, your primary function as a leader doesn't mean that you can in any way enable or tolerate unethical behaviors happening, and you can be held accountable for those. The rules make the specifics of that very clear. And then always follow the ethical rules regarding representing an organization that employs you if you are moving into a leadership role, let's say a C-suite role within a large organization. And make sure, like I said earlier, that you're following any local laws. So what are the key takeaways in the last minute or two here before we move into questions? The skills that you need in order to succeed as an individual contributor lawyer aren't the same as executive skills. The lack of leadership skills that are those which are different than the sole contributing lawyer skills, if they are not appropriately developed, can derail your career, reputation, and your financial success, and that is business and professional. Success as an individual contributor is related to knowledge. As an executive leader, you're going to need to focus on wisdom, and the lawyer's fraught relationship with risk can make that journey to executive wisdom a hard one. Toxic myths about one's professional narrative or identity can additionally keep attorneys from developing the mindset that's necessary in order to move into organizational leadership. But replacing those toxic myths with a new professional narrative rooted in values, purpose, and tied into ethics will help set you up for a successful transition, and making sure that you do that with an actionable plan that focuses on developing your existing leadership qualities, developing necessary and attainable new skills, delegating skills that you cannot learn, and then adding accountability systems into the mix will make this be something that you're not just talking about, but you actually are moving to live. And finally, make sure that you utilize masterminds, mentors, coaches, supervisors, whoever, spouses, cousins, whoever, to be able to help you continue to move forward, because the road to successful leadership can be tough. And then, as always, follow ethical rules. Finally, I love getting to know people. If you've been here, I'd love to hear from you. Connect with me using any of the channels here. You'll see there's a QR code that will take you to my YouTube channel, which has all sorts of content, including interviews, as well as presentations from me and shorts and all sorts of stuff about leadership, how to be a successful leader, particularly if you're a lawyer. It's fascinating stuff. It's fun, and it can help anyone out who's taken the time and interest to be here today. And with that, I will turn this back over to Nina to close out, and I'm more than happy to stick around for a few minutes to answer any questions.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Scott. We can now go ahead and move on to our Q&A. Looks like we already have a couple. I know we're a little bit short on time, so we'll take a few. Our first one is, how can I apply the processes discussed in the program to my current role and kind of minimize these risks, whether it's by telling myself myths or something else?
So if I'm not answering this question, I do ask that you say I need a little bit more clarification here, and then explain in which way I'm not being clear about this, because I want to make sure that any answer I give is meaningful to the person who's asked. So what I really recommend that you do is two things. First of all, set aside the time, especially since you've attended this, to download the supplemental materials on your free time, review it, begin to document the process that's here, as well as begin to answer the questions. I recommend, honestly, that you spend maybe what's called a miracle morning. If you can wake up a little early and for, let's say, a couple of months, and just go through and meaningfully begin to answer these questions, begin to journal a little bit to think of what they might be, and then to begin to slowly but surely chip away at writing out these plans once you come to the answers. That's really how I would do it. I almost view implementing this stuff as the equivalent of taking a part-time class. Now, the good news is that this kind of part-time class is really interesting. It's really fun. It has a direct personal impact on you, and it can go at your own pace. But you do have to commit that time, and I really recommend setting aside time, even if it means getting up early or staying up a little bit late to do that. You've got to have quiet space and focus to be able to do this right. Does that answer the question?
I think so. Yeah, we're not getting anything else in the queue, so I think so.
Good.
Thank you for that extra insight. Our next question is, how should the approach to leadership or growing into leadership roles differ when you're leading a large group or a small firm?
Great question. First of all, the hardest part of stepping into leadership is going to be dealing with people. I would assume if I were advising anyone who's about to step into their first leadership role, that 50% of their time, if not more, will be spent dealing with interpersonal issues of your staff. And so the bigger your staff is, the more rife with potential interpersonal conflict there is, and the greater the degrees of personalities that you're going to have to deal with are out there. And so really what I would recommend, if you have a large staff or if it's a large organization that you step into, the organization may be large, but it may not be particularly complex in terms of its operations or its mission or its function in the world. If it is complex due to its size, you need to also spend time learning it. But really, what's going to be most complex for you, as opposed to a smaller one, is navigating the personality types, spending a lot of time doing reading on or getting mentoring on emotional intelligence and social intelligence and how to navigate hierarchies. If someone wants to talk about readings or thinking about that, for heaven's sake, reach out to me on LinkedIn or through any of the channels above, and I'll be more than happy to point you to resources or give you thoughts. That's a great question, but people, that's going to be it.
Awesome. Thank you, Scott. And then I think the last question that we have time for today is, how can I assess whether I'm ready to take on a leadership role? What steps should I take if I feel like I'm not ready yet?
So, I love this question. The answer as to whether you're ready, I recommend, should always be yes. And you know why? Because think about what we talked about with regards to risk. The question itself, am I ready, is one that almost presupposes the danger associated with the risk. If you think you've got it in you, you've got it in you. And the fact that you cared enough to be here shows that you can do it. All that you need to do is understand that there's going to be mistakes along the way, and you're going to need to learn a lot and then dive in. Don't wait until you're ready. You know what? No one is ever ready. There are days I've been in leadership positions for more years than some people have been alive in this room, I bet. And you know what? I'm still not ready, but you still dive in and you do it. Don't be afraid. You can do it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Scott, for that additional insight and advice. And thank you all so much for submitting your audience questions. Thanks for watching. We hope you enjoyed this video. And if you did enjoy it, please click the like button and subscribe to our channel for more videos on law practice and legal marketing. See you in our next clip.